Longtime Louisiana Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon is not seeking re-election. As Sabrina Wilson reports, Donelon made the announcement during a news conference related to the insurance crisis.
Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon walked into the room where media were waiting to announce that 9 companies applied for state grants as an incentive to write new wind and hail policies in Louisiana.
For each dollar an insurance company receives through that program, they must match the grant dollar for dollar and then write $4 in new premium.
The applicants seeking various amounts in the millions. They want more than the $45 million the legislature appropriated for the incentive fund.
The insurers collectively, those 9 collectively, asked for a total of $62 million in grant money, which is $17 million more than is available.
So if all 9 meet the qualifications for the program, we would like to see all 9 participate, so therefore we would pro rata the amounts that they would get.
Donelon says legislation will be filed to seek additional money from the state.
The insurers who participate will write policies in the area most affected by the policy cancellations, including taking policies off Citizens' Book of Business.
But from a political standpoint, that wasn't his biggest announcement. That came at the end of the press conference.
That I will not seek re-election this fall.
Donelon has been insurance commissioner for 17 years, was in the legislature and on the Jefferson Parish Council.
And I am obviously 78 years old and have spent almost 50 years serving the public of Louisiana.
I wanted to know if something else factored into his decision to leave the insurance department. So did the strain and the weight of what's going on with the insurance landscape play into your decision not to seek re-election?
I really don't think so. Who can tell? But one thing that did play a factor in it is a statewide campaign takes a lot of time. And I haven't had any time since late last year to put toward my re-election effort.
And he added to that answer.
I can't say that it had no factor in my decision, but frankly, I'm also the longest serving insurance commissioner in the state's history, 17 years.
Jim Donelon says the people of Louisiana should know that he always gave his best effort as an elected official. Also, he says he has no one in mind to be his successor. Reporting from the Louisiana Department of Insurance in Baton Rouge, I'm Sabrina Wilson, Fox 8 Local First.